My friends, thanks for tuning. Today we are discussing lesson number 3 of chapter 2 of infrastructure security consultant course. So don't forget the syllabus on my slide share. You do have it, and we are right now on the top issues on-prem and cloud. So it's a tough conversation based on network inspection, monitoring, TAP in general. So we need to go through few concepts that are extremely important. First of all, you need to consider that when you have a TAP, the first things that you should think of is what are you going to inspect. So let's consider that here you have the router and is getting all traffic through. So you have a big pipe of traffic that cross this router. Okay. You need to consider that the router is just acting at layer 3 and layer 4. It doesn't do nothing at a higher level. So if you are going to tap this traffic, whatever you inspect, like an SSL tunnel or something, you'll not be capable to do too much. So first things when you are talking about network tapping, network inspection is to understand that wherever you decide to do it, it will change your visibility in terms of capability to inspect and see an attack. So let's consider that, for example, this one is a VPN endpoint, and you enable the mirroring of the traffic through that. Okay. So I apologize, is not really one of the best diagram. It's just to support our conversation. So internet, go through a router, finish on a VPN endpoint. VPN endpoints are really good to inspect whatever is getting out of a VPN tunnel. So if you mirror this traffic into a network tap mirroring, you'll see whatever is getting out of the pipe like an IPsec on SSL tunnel that is terminated into that box. But you shouldn't forget that that is an encapsulation that can contain another SSL. So if you want to inspect traffic in a smart way, the first question that you should ask to yourself is, where can I see the SSL? I stress at this point more than one lesson. So if, for example, you have a proxy, is really good to inspect the traffic into the proxy, because obviously the proxy will terminate the SSL, and you'll see load balancer are really good. VPN endpoint are good as well, but you need to think on what you are doing. There is another conversation that is generally missed. People think, okay, I'm just enabling NetFlow. Perfect. Okay, now let's put it. This one is the client A that talk with B. You enable NetFlow. Here on the router, you have NAT. What are you actually seeing? Because if you have more than one client on this side, you'll always see the NAT. So you need also to think that whatever you inspect need to be smart enough to be deployed in a manner that you can see it. What I mean with this one is VXLAN, extension of VXLAN. So here you have a subnet, enabling VXLAN, and on the other side is extended. At that stage, you'll be capable to see the MAC address encapsulated of this specific client that is contacting. That is the right way to do it. So a big issue is this thinking, okay, we enable tapping and we get. Depends what you get. If you enable NetFlow on a firewall, uh, it's good to have a tons of data, but what if it's behind the NAT? What's the actual result and value that you are getting out of it? That should be your question as infrastructure security consultant. So you should think on what actually you are spending money for. What are you collecting? What can be? Can pass an SSL tunneling? You see absolutely nothing. Is better to traffic mirroring on a load balancer. It should be better to inspect on the proxy, on the VPN endpoint. Those are the kind of question. I can't give you rules because each infra is different. You need to look into that with knowledge of infrastructure, with a diagram, and you need to understand. But it's the thinking that is important. And my lessons are not about nothing else than thinking and food for thought. I'm not teaching you network basics. I'm telling you what, when you have all basics right, will go wrong. So this one, in on-prem, there is also a completely different structure of a VLAN generally. And so on-prem specifically does have a lot of hardware that got deployed. We talk about the classical Gigamon. You do have more tapping points. And so the security of a tap is something that you shouldn't neglect to consider. And so in your threat modeling, you should consider also that the tap is attacked. And when you are talking about a network tap, it's not just a traffic mirroring sent somewhere. It's sometimes a device that in cloud can be virtual. And is having an access to mirrored traffic. You need also to pay attention to some configuration where you enable promiscuous mode. Promiscuous mode is a mode of an network interface to inspect the traffic. You need to pay really attention because promiscuous mode is quite dangerous in attacking because it can allow privilege escalation because you run the network interface at an higher privilege level, or at least some daemon are accessing to the interface with an higher level, and it can be exploited for privilege escalation. Don't forget that also whatever software you use to specifically in the box can actually be subject to exploit as well. So you need to think also what does it mean enabling, which risk you get, if it's straight into the host, what that will mean. Is an attacking to the tap capable to sniff credit card numbers? Yep. Obviously depends where, and so but it's something that you need to think. And most of this is virtual devices, physical hardware. If you go through Gigamon, for example, it does have a lot of filtering, even at the packet level, to be capable to filter traffic on the fly. It's unbelievable the progress that they made on that space. And so it's an actual incident response tool if you are good on use it. But you need also to think that all this stuff run with an API on top. And the security of your mirrored traffic is also security at layer 2 on avoiding trunk, for example, that VLAN. So think about it and actually consider that each cloud implementation can be slightly different. I heard more than once thinking that mirroring in cloud network traffic means to get the same traffic. It's not, because you are encapsulating that traffic. And so the size of a package will never match. The MTU will be different. I show you here in a AWS document about it. Take the following information into consideration when you use traffic mirroring. Encapsulated mirror traffic is routed by using the VPC route table. That means an attack that change that can redirect your mirrored traffic first. But it's not written here, but anyway, it is obviously between the line. You can only create a traffic mirror session if you are the owner of a source of a network interface or its subnet. That means that you risk also to do a lot of VPC peering to be capable to, and can enlarge the attack surface. We truncate the packet to the MTU value when both of the following are true. The traffic mirror target is standalone instance. The mirrored traffic packet size is greater than the traffic mirror target MTU value. It's obvious. I mean, you shouldn't be a genius to understand that this one is a normal technical limitation, because you are actually encapsulating. And here is explaining if a packet with this size is mirrored and the traffic mirror target value is 9001, the mirror encapsulation results in the mirror packet being greater than the MTU value. So you need also to have a big consideration of what you are doing. What is happening right now in cloud, you find a lot of sysadmin implementing stuff and not having that network background on understanding and be really familiar with network parameter. Another things that I want to highlight, that I already did it actually. The mirrored traffic is a deep copy of inbound and outbound virtual machine network traffic. It can be streamed to a destination IP endpoint. As I said, you can also route it. An attacker can misroute that, or an internal load balancer in the same virtual network or peered virtual network. That will mean that if you want to isolate the tap, you'll anyway have a convergence layer at the peered VPC. Anyway, you understood what I mean in terms of, I use AWS terminology, but it's the same in Azure. You do have a peered virtual network, and so obviously you are creating a trust boundaries between the two, and you should think how it can be exploited too. Obviously, each cloud service provider does have his own marketplace. You see the big player. I do really like how ExtraOp works on that stuff, but it's a personal preference, and uh, obviously everybody does have. Gigamon is the top. He was always the top notch on-prem. He got a lot of challenges in cloud as any other vendor, because it's actually how is designed the networking in cloud that doesn't let the translation between on-prem and cloud in the same way. In on-prem, you play a lot also with load balancing, mirroring. For example, you have an F5, you can mirror straight on the load balancer. You have more room to play. In the cloud, a bit for the security and the fact that you have less control than on-prem, it can be harder to hardening all this stuff. So think the VPC traffic mirroring, it does have a advantage, but it does have a lot of worry on how you mirror the source and the target. For example, I always found a bit funny how actually cloud service provider let to bypass licensing of all these product. I give you, I think it was here. I will show you. Anyway, here you bind, you create the interface, you define the mirror target, you decide also the mirror filter. That is really cool because like that you don't have to mirror everything, and you create what you need. But what I was trying to say is about the MAC address, because all these appliances are using MAC address limitation. So I think it was here. Anyway, it was about the fact that when you create an INI, you can define the MAC address, and so you can scale it all the time with the same MAC address, so the license doesn't change. I always found a bit funny this stuff because it's actually like to shoot at the vendor, but it's like it is working. GCP does use a similar concept, and it's not going to reinvent the wheel, but it does have something specific in terms of VPC flow log for the mirrored traffic. And so what is happening is if you do have the traffic mirrored, it doesn't show you again. In fact, it's saying to stop collecting logs on mirrored traffic, disable VPC flow logs on the collector instance subnet. But it's not really what you want all the time, because VPC flow are actually what you always want. So disable it in total and not having the granularity to do it only for the mirrored traffic is a bit a kind of limitation. Uh, this one is an overview of the challenges you'll have. So when to recap, think what you mirror, think about the VXLAN, NAT, problem that you can have on understanding the source of a packet because it's behind the NAT. Also at layer 2, think about the VLAN trunking. If you do have all these devices, pay attention to the API. If you can put it behind an API gateway, that's smart. Uh, as I always suggest about API, never leave it like around, protect it behind, and try to think about that the mirrored traffic in cloud is always encapsulated. Pay attention to the MTU, double check each limitation, and based on which product you use, trying to understand what is the better choice. Think that it can be misrouted, it can be attacked itself. Don't leave boxes with promiscuous mode and have alarm about promiscuous mode. It means something funny going on. If you are the one doing funny things, don't cleaning and not having alarms, you are doing a big mistake. A Wireshark should give you alarms and flash and sound bells around the SOC. So I hope you enjoyed. I tried to keep it short and condensed. There is a way lot in on-prem the raw traffic filtering. Also Cisco does a lot of that. It's fascinating. They do use fingerprinting of the packets. They are trying to understand straight on the fly, and they can do it in a big throughput. It's something that always fascinated me. All technology behind on how they made it, even without inspecting the traffic itself. If you want to read about it and you are passionate about network like I do, it's a great stuff. For cloud, always think about the API. Pay attention to not get an API of VPC poked and playing smart, enabling traffic mirroring, or not thinking about stuff like that. And be careful also on the reason why you have a tap in first instance and which kind of information can be extracted from that. If you use properly this conversation, you need to spend a lot of time and effort in the design of the tap itself, and you need to think in advance if it's really worth to risk to enlarge the attack surface. Thanks a lot for your time listening. Comment below, give me a bit of interaction. It will be good also for me to tune the course, and I hope you are enjoying the content. I'm doing my best to do something that you don't find out there. Okay? Thanks. Take care. Cheers. Bye bye.